Welcome in, Ritchie and Rob, betPARX, John Ritchie, Rob Ellis. Always a little more pep in your step, a little more inflection in the voice, John, a little more joy around the Delaware Valley when you knock the Cowboys off. And that's what the Eagles did last week for sure, John. And I'll tell you this, it was not a game without angst, without a little sweat, without some white knuckling agita. This was one of those that it felt like I mean, the feeling of actually playing. It felt like a lot of people played this one. This was a wild roller coaster, that's for sure.
Exhausting. It was a type of game where there were just so many massive, important, impactful plays. It's hard to keep them all straight. That's a really good Dallas team. And part of what makes this year so crazy is I think deep down, everyone in both organizations thinks there's a really good chance that these teams play one another 3 times this year.
Mm-hmm.
And so everyone's sort of soft pedaling it a little bit more around the discussion of Eagles Cowboys, the hatred, the vitriol, everything else that goes into it. It's just weird this year because these teams are on this collision course. Watching that game on Sunday afternoon, I just couldn't help thinking that Dallas Cowboys team, they can go into Santa Clara and beat that 49ers team in an NFC huge playoff implications type game that could really help our cause. I deep down feel good about playing a Cowboys team repeatedly because of the way they are built and because of the way we can potentially own them by grinding them, own them by running the ball, even though we didn't seem to do it the way I wanted to in that game on Sunday. We didn't have a crazy day on the ground. It was modest, right around 100 yards, but I'd like to see us pound them. I know we can pound them, but then I think maybe this coaching staff wants to keep that in their back pocket too. These teams are going to play again. We know in the regular season, but I think there's a really good chance they play in the third season as well.
I think you're right. I'll tell you, when we think of clutch plays, John, we always think on the offensive side. And certainly can be a lot of clutch plays made offensively. Let's talk about clutch plays defensively. I mean, you think about the tackle that Blankenship makes on Schoonmaker, right? You talk about Brandon Graham forcing Dak Prescott essentially to step out of bounds on the 2-point conversion, which changes everything at the end of that game. And then, of course, a couple of big-time sacks by BG or Sweat or Carter. Like, defensively, there were clutch plays made that you had to have, John.
And look, Bert, they're talking about how the Dallas Cowboys they failed by inches. This is a game of centimeters. This is a game that favors the more prepared team.
Mm-hmm.
I look at that Reed Blankenship play like he made an incredible play, working his way underneath the screen game that they were trying to work. Fighting his way through that. And making a tackle in an incredibly difficult situation, makes the perfect tackle at the perfect time. And Brandon Graham is just sheer hustle. It's sheer force of will, refusing to lose contain to a guy who's sprightly and fast and young in Dak Prescott. But Brandon Graham somehow dug deep and made that play, pushed him out of bounds. Just that's want to. And those are guys who made the plays that mattered when they counted, and the Dallas Cowboys weren't capable of doing that. I love our players and the character that this team is built upon, and I feel like they are ready and willing to take on that team, no matter how many times we have to play them, but they're going to keep making plays like that because they're tough-minded, they're physically tough, and they know what it takes to win.
Yeah, John. And lastly, you're speaking of character. I mean, you look at Jalen Hurts. We all know he's not 100%. His teammates know he's not 100%. I mean, I was shocked that he finished off the first half, frankly, and then he comes out there and he's dealing in the second half. It's Devontae Smith, beautiful throw, but we know he's not himself, and he's still doing this at such a high level. It's remarkable. Talk to me from a player's perspective about what kind of energy, what kind of motivation you get off of a guy when you know he's not himself, yet he's still out there.
I think everyone Everyone on that team respects the way that this guy fights. Everyone talks about how he's been the leader. Jason Kelsey talks about how he handed over the mantle of leader, and that was a long time ago on this team. Jalen Hurts absolutely gets it and understands how to lead by example, and the toughness matters in this sport. It just does. I love his mindset, and I love the fact that it permeates the team. And I absolutely do think it sets an example. The fact that he is unwilling to concede to injury, the fact that he's going to keep fighting, I think that that sends a message, and that other guys will follow suit. He's the type of guy that no matter how badly he's hurt, unless he has to be like physically repaired by a doctor, he's not going to be out there. And you don't always have that in your quarterbacks. You don't always get that type of player. I think it's amazing. We should rejoice that we've got a guy who's wired this way. And it's part of why the guys love him. It's part of why the NFL is learning to love Jalen Hurts. He's the face of this game for the next decade for a reason. He's built the way the game is played.
Well said, John. Well said. All right, next time we meet, we'll be looking forward to the Chiefs, a Super Bowl rematch. We'll be looking forward to the second half of the season after this wild 8-1 run that we've been on so far. John, great insights, my friend. As always, good to see you, John. I appreciate you, man.
Take care, Bert.
All right, my man.
Looking forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you, sir. That is John Ritchie. I am Rob Ellis. We are Ritchie and Rob. Remember, download the betPARX app.